What you have to appreciate in older literature is the overall impact it has in later mediums. Take Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, an 1886 novella, which has gone on to have more interpretations than I care to delve into. But I'll give it a try anyway. I did read the original story to prepare, and was fascinated to learn that it was structured to keep the main character's dual identity as a finale twist. It's too bad that no version has ever attempted to tell the story that way, and now it's pretty much too late since everyone's aware of the plot. In any case, it's the fault of the 1887 stage production that cemented the permanent diagram for telling Robert Louis Stevenson's tale. In this 1887 play, there was a love interest added, and the reveal of Mr. Hyde was brought to the beginning, putting everything in Dr. Jekyll's perspective. This play is usually the inspiration for the film adaptations. There's been plenty of movies going back as far as 1908, but the first one to be a critical and commercial hit was the 1920 version starring John Barrymore. It's in the public domain, so of course it's in this horror box set, but for the purposes of this review, I bought the Kino Blu-ray to take advantage of a well-produced transfer. The sets are large and the costumes are great. Like many adaptations, they set the story in the late 1800s, similar to the book. John Barrymore is enticing in the role. He has the curiousness and demeanor of a young scientist, but when he becomes Mr. Hyde, it's terrifying. This became the defining look of the evil counterpart. The ugly hands and face, the long hair and top hat, it's a classic look. When he becomes Mr. Hyde, the transformation scene is done through smart visuals and overacting by Barrymore. It's a silent film, so without the use of sound, he's able to emulate the pain of this transformation. What I really appreciate about this version is his slow building motivation for creating the potion. I suppose this is touched upon in the original novella a little bit, but here it's just done a lot better. The character of George Carew is actually the one who influences Dr. Jekyll to express his evil ways. He seduces him to do the things that are considered bad. It makes matters worse since his fiancée is the daughter of Carew. I don't think I'd like the idea of a love interest in this movie, but it actually really works, especially since it adds an extra dynamic for when Mr. Hyde kills her father, and even makes the ending more sentimental and sad. It was a change that was meant to please the common audience, but it improves the characters, and it still follows the novella almost seamlessly. It's just weird that they changed her name to Millicent for this movie, when the stage version, she was Agnes. Then again, every version of this movie I've seen has changed the name of the love interest. I guess Agnes was just going out of style. There's even a great moment where we get a story within a story, and we cut to a completely different set and costumes. It feels pretty ambitious for the 1920s to attempt a storytelling device like this without explaining everything to the audience. It just proves the power of editing. It's one of my favorite silent movies, and it's probably in the top 5 for this box set. I'd love to talk about other Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde films in the future, but just for the fun of it, let's look at some of the other films that predated this one. There's the first adaptation in 1908 that followed the stage version pretty closely, even as a 16-minute film. Sadly, it's lost, so there's no way to watch it, just the memories of those who were there to see it. There's even reports that there was a second, separate film in 1908 and in 1909, but these claims only have so much information to back it up. In 1910, there's another film from Denmark, but that one is also lost. Apparently, the Hyde scenario is, in the end, a dream sequence of Jekyll's. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. In 1912, Thanhauser released a 12-minute version of the stage production, with James Cruise in the role. The transformation scenes are pretty flawless here, and while it seems like it was shot in someone's backyard that happens to also have a science lab set, it definitely gets the job done. I like this one. In 1913, Universal released their first version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This one is sadly pretty insignificant. It's an extended version of the 1912 film, with boring camera setups and ineffective transformation scenes. It's an easy one to skip. In 1914, there was another film from Germany directed by Max Mack. I guess it's 30 minutes long, but I can't find any other information about it. Is this a lost film, or is it just kinda hard to find? Then in 1920, there were 3 feature-length versions of the film. There was the already mentioned Barrymore film, and then there was the Charles Hayden film that took the 1910 approach by having the whole thing be a dream. It was a cheap copy of the John Barrymore version, even if there's some reports that it was in production before that. In any case, the transformations are not too good, the editing is very jumpy, and it just feels clumsy. I've only seen the 15-minute cut because the full-length movie does exist, but I have yet to find a copy of it online. It's public domain if it exists, so shouldn't it be online for free? People have been saying it's on this crappy looking DVD. Are you really telling me the only way to see this public domain movie is on the DVD that looks like it's from the bargain bin at the dollar store? Well, that's insane. Maybe I'll buy it someday, and hey, if I watch it, I'll let you know about it then. The last 1920 film was directed by F.W. Murnau. This one is lost, which is the saddest case for all of these versions, since I truly believe it'd probably be amazing. The guy who directed Nosferatu took on a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie? It sounds too good to be true. Please be found one day. Oh, but I guess there was also a 1920 short film starring Hank Mann and a bunch of other parodies, plus Dr. Pickle and Mr. Pride, which stars Stan Laurel before he met Hardy. This is the only one that I've seen where someone else drinks the potion besides the main character. In this case, the dog does. In this film, he does less terrorizing and more silly pranks, like shooting spitballs at the local kids or stealing ice cream cones. But I could be here all day talking about all the different versions that exist. It's impossible to talk about everything or to even prove that some of these exist. It's just weird that after 1920, another feature-length film wouldn't be produced until 1931, where Frederick Mark solidified the role. I guess it goes to show just how good the 1920 Barrymore film is. Nowadays, people have seen The Nutty Professor, another great take on the subject. But if you need a dose of silent horror or just looking for a great Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie, this is definitely worth a viewing. Thank you for watching the video. A special thanks to Chris, Lucas, and Ryan for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd like to be like them and get exclusive access to content and blogs and even request reviews monthly, please click on the Patreon link, and thanks for your support.